back here live and in your ears because I've been gone for a couple of weeks. We did a retreat for my company where we take all the leaders from all over the world and we bring them to one place and we talk to them and we train them and we get in touch with our hearts, and it's extraordinary. So that happened. What else happened while I was gone? Man, a lot's happening in the world, right? But I want to let you know about today's show. Today's show. Well, it's good that you're here. It's good that you're here because, let your electric eye shine on me, babe. Because, first of all, we've got a guest host, not only a PCC coach, not only a leader among coaches, she's also a CrossFit competitor, and she's from the Cayman Islands. That's right, I said it. And after we introduce her and we get to know her, we're going to talk to Gary Sinclair. Now, I promise you, my dear listener, people out on the cutting edge of coaching, and sometimes I don't know if they're a little too far out on the cutting edge or if they're just right where we want them to be. But we're going to find out about Gary together today. He's got a couple of approaches that are really, if they're legit, they are extraordinary. He's got something called Soul Link. And what he does is, all those people you know with PTSD, he is able to neutralize any memory within seconds. And he says he's 100% successful. What kind of difference would that make in the world, right? So you need to know about him. And then we're going to talk with Ron Carucci. Now, Ron is totes legit, as the kids say. He's on HBR and Forbes and Fortune and CEO Magazine and Business Insider. He's a CEO coach and executive coach who's been working for 30 years with some of the most influential executives in the world to tackle challenges of strategy, organization, and leadership. So we'll talk to him. We'll learn about leadership. And he's done an extraordinary 10-year study. So we're going to find out all about leadership from somebody who knows. But first, let's get started with our friend Laura Watler. Laura Watler is how I'm trained to say it, is a PCC. As I said, she comes to us from the Cayman Islands where she lives with her 2 dogs. She's newly engaged to be married and an active CrossFit competitor. Ms. Watler, welcome to our microphones.
Hello. Thanks for being here.
Okay, in traditional Cayman fashion, we're having some spotty reception, so just keep talking and we'll work out the logistics, okay? Laura, tell us one thing. If you were to typify the people you work with, your clientele, what would you say? Who do you work with?
Mainly I work with people who are looking for what's next in their relationships. Now, I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, however, talking about relationships in general, whether that's career or romantic as well, but maybe something about time and money as well. So I'm working with mostly people that are looking for what's next in terms of shifting their relationships, and mostly their relationship to themselves, and thus creating it outside of their life in a different way. So harnessing the power that is inside of them and using that, creating what's next for them.
Okay. So anybody who's looking for a relationship breakthrough, anybody who's looking for a breakthrough in their relationship with themselves, maybe their fitness, maybe their ability to do that. So you're sort of a life coach, work one-on-one with humans about typical human challenges of time, money, and our relationship to ourselves. Is that right?
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks for being with us today. As you know, one of the things that I'm most proud of with this show is that we are a media partner. We're in our 4th year of media partnership with the International Coach Federation. Now, I know that you, Laura, what do you prefer, Laura or Laura? Because it's messing me up.
Laura is fine. If you get tongue-tied, it's Laura.
Which one was that? Oh, Laura. Okay. That's just, it's going to mess me up, but I'm going to do my best. Anyway, I know that you're a PCC, which means that you have gone to the International Coach Federation. You've done what it takes to get your credential as a coach. And what difference does that make to you? Is it a good thing? Are you getting more jobs because of it? What's happening?
On the whole, I'm getting more jobs and corporate work as well as personal. But the thing that I noticed about the professional certified coach was that it actually had me create a different relationship with myself in knowing that I was at that level of coaching. So when I first got it, I was like, I can go to corporations. And actually it sunk in and I was like, oh, I'm actually at that level of coaching. And it actually created a different relationship with how I held myself and my skills as a coach. So.
Gotcha. Okay. So you know how excited I am then that we're a media partner with the International Coach Federation. You know how important it is to have not only professional training as a coach, but to advance the coaching profession, because this rising tide lifts all boats. The International Coach Federation, which is also known as ICF, is the leading global organization dedicated to advancing the coaching profession, and they do that by, as we're talking about, setting high standards and providing independent certification of coaches, but also accrediting coach training programs and building a worldwide network of trained coaching professionals. The ICF is the world's largest organization of professionally trained coaches and professional coaches, and as such, it elicits instant credibility. You know, as I do, that even before we met Laura, that as a PCC, she's got some training, she knows what she's doing, and she's a professional. So I cannot recommend it enough. Even if you're just looking for information on coaches, even if you're in a non-coaching profession and want to know more about coaching and coach training and find out where there are coaching events near you, all of that can be found on the ICF website. You can find them on the www by going to coachfederation.org. The ICF's also committed, and this is really my favorite thing, to connecting professional coaches with the tools and resources we need to succeed in our careers. So whether it's marketing information or how do I position myself, how do I get myself into an organization, how do I find the jobs and the clients that will keep me successful, or whether it's just information on research. Let's say you're responding to an RFP or you want to make a presentation and you need information. You can find all of that on the web at the International Coach Federation. Go check them out, coachfederation.org, or follow them on the Twitter, the little bird Twitter thing, by going to @ICFHQ, @ICFHQ. They are at ICFHQ. All right? We're also delighted to welcome a representative from the ICF on this show each and every quarter. So, if you got questions and stuff, call us up. The other long time, and I know, Laura, you got a lot to say about these people. The other longtime sponsor of this show is AccomplishmentCoaching.com. Accomplishment Coaching is home of the world's finest coach training program. And Laura, I know you've done a lot of leadership development and a lot of training with Accomplishment Coaching. What do you have to say about those folks?
They changed my life. They're my family. I'm actually, when I was looking at my wedding invite list, majority of them are Accomplishment Coaching leaders and coaches that I work with, which they hold coaching in the highest regard and leadership training in the highest regard, more than I've seen working in corporations anywhere. They speak to people's greatness, and they speak and hold people in their greatness no matter what. So it's a pleasure and honor for me to work with them. And I couldn't imagine myself without a better family outside of my existing blood family. So that's the joy that I get to work with them.
Great. We also want to point to that Accomplishment Coaching is designed from the beginning to be the world's finest coach training program. So it's not for everybody, but if you're like me and you are looking for the Oxford, the Harvard, the Stanford, any of the Fords for coaching, if you want the highest training program possible, the highest level, even if you're already trained as a coach, go check out AccomplishmentCoaching.com. It's a year-long program. You get coached each and every week. You get more hours of being coached, more hours of coaching actual real-life humans, not just your, fellow classmates. They bring in human beings, real people. You get more support in your business, more books, more movies, more field trips, more of everything, and more hours of in-person training than any other coach training program out there. So check them out. Of course, they're ICF accredited. And, Laura, my favorite thing, Accomplishment Coaching invites people to come in and observe their coach's training program. Like, you can actually come in and see behind the curtain. You can look and check out the black box for free. All you got to do is let them know you're coming, and they'll invite you and make a seat for you, and you can sort of sit and watch the thing go. So all that happens, but you first must go to AccomplishmentCoaching.com. Laura, let's see if we can do all the cities. So here's where you can find AccomplishmentCoaching.com programs. Ready?
Yep. All right. New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago, San Diego, Seattle, and now Victoria, B.C., Canada.
And of those cities, which is your favorite?
San Diego.
Nice. Well played there. Well played, especially as we're coming into the winter. All right. Man, I feel like we got a lot to tell you, but let's just get to it. Our first guest, I guess I'll introduce him, Laura, but get ready to ask this guy a lot of questions because I can't tell. I can't tell if this guy's, legit and got one of the most powerful tools on the planet, or if it's something else. So here's what we know about Gary Sinclair. He was born with medical issues. He had 50% lung capacity. He was such a severe asthmatic. And then at age 22, a time when we mostly are at the peak of our physicality, Gary was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, something that is a huge and devastating illness for most people. And yet, Gary has not only come back and overcome his so-called wheelchair lifestyle, he's not only got full lung capacity, but at 42 years of age, he became the U.S. National Senior Olympic Freestyle Figure Skating Champion. He's got 3 Lifetime Achievement Awards. He teaches certification in something called Restoration and Soul Link. And his method, Soul Link, has proved to not fail once in neutralizing PTSD level memories in seconds. We're delighted to welcome to our microphones for the first time Gary Sinclair. Hello, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. We had to set a level there, and we may have blasted out some of our listeners. I'm sorry about that. Tell me, I know that Laura wants in here too, because it just seems impossible. But let's start with Soul Link. This is your method that you say is 100% successful in neutralizing any memory, including PTSD and other traumas, in seconds. Tell us about that, because it's quite a claim.
Okay, well, let me just say this so we put a little credibility in here.
Nice.
Just returned from a week at the World Congress of Integrated Medicine, where I did 60 hours of this work with people that were there. Mm-hmm. The work is patent pending. Bruce Lipton is now putting it on his website because Bruce and I have been friends for over 20 years. When you look at everything it's doing, the International Institute of Complementary Therapists has it approved as a global medicine. Wow. We're part of the Energy Medicine Professional Association. We're part of Healing Touch Professional Association. And the truth is, the work has already got a medical peer review on 2,200 people that took 5 months for them to do with 100% success. So what we're talking about isn't a fluke here, but let's talk about how and why it works. Your heart beats, and it creates an energy field. The only reason we live and breathe and have our being is because that heart beats. In reality, you can tell me about a 10-year-old memory, but you can't show me a 10-year-old body. Mm-hmm. So from my perspective, having gone through what you just described accurately as the healing modality works I have, and by the way, I'll be 73 soon.
Happy almost birthday.
Yeah, 73 and healthy. But because that heart beats, it creates an energy field around us that I call your identity field. You know, you're not in charge of that beat. You can't start it. You can't stop it. It beats all on its own. From my perspective, because there's no strings attached for providing you life, I call it unconditional love. Because, boy, it loves you. You're still there and exist because of it. So what I learned is I learned how to take the longitudinal meridians, which run the whole length of the body, the transverse meridians that run across certain areas of the body, and specifically for the base of the work, even though we can do it with other areas, I use the hands. And by doing a process that uses the hands, we exponentially increase the power of that field. Heart Math Institute would tell you that it's 5,000 times stronger as a positive energy field when compared to the brain at 100. So knowing that, when we can exponentially increase the field, whatever that person is actually holding in mind, it pulls the negative charge out of what it's holding in mind. So literally that 5,000, as it becomes stronger, is in fact the unconditional love that's changing that memory. And I have to tell you, yes, we are. We have passed more than 10,000 people that we've worked with. I mean, I'm in absolute awe. Because all the work that we do is basically content-free, which means I don't have to discuss what that story is with you. Mm-hmm. You literally can stand in front of me. I had a young man here yesterday. I did 5 different memories with him, and there's no question that guy's life has changed forever. I mean, I've had people where when they talk about that memory, it's like I'm blowing someone's face off in Vietnam, and for 61 years I wake up every night and I'm in agony because I don't want that gun to go off, but that mm-hmm. memory's running again. Mm-hmm. 40 seconds later, looking at the man, and he says, I can't tell you. I really can't tell you how the emotions and feelings are because I can't find the face. You know, this is just major, mega change in what's now available for people. as far as what the therapeutic work will do, and it's not complicated. Anybody who's a coach, goodness, they can learn to do this work because of what it's doing. I mean, if you consider all the uses, there's an 80-page certification manual to it. The young man that was here yesterday said, well, I really know what I desire to do in my life because I'm a coach. And I said, well, what makes you think you can't get there? And he said, well, I think that I sort of like lack the motivation I need. So I said to them, is there anything that's happened in the past where you discovered you had that type of motivation? And he thought for a minute, and all of a sudden he named an event that took place. Well, I used the same hand process and basically energetically put all that information together for him so that he's standing there grinning ear to ear, realizing that his own mind, he just completed being able to do this for the rest of his life. You know, we're fractured all over the place, and now all of a sudden there's a process that's going to allow us to energetically do for people what they really need to cause this type of healing to take place. And when we say it hasn't failed, it hasn't failed. I mean, there's only about 150 people now certified in the globe that do this work. But there's no question. It's being used in a hospital, but I can't give you the name of that because they don't want to get inundated with all the people that are coming after them. Not only do I have that soul link process, I have another one called awareness and consciousness. And if somebody has pain that's been locked in their body for more than 5 years, we've got to face it. Every cell in your body is replaced every 5 years. Because of that, if that pain is being held in the body after 5 years, yes, there can be something physically wrong. However, in most cases, literally, if we go in and talk to the part of awareness that's holding on to that pain can be gone, again, in the shortest period of time and not return. It's just, the work is absolutely amazing. I have 40 years into it. The process called restoration, and restoration does to your life what Soul does for a memory, but it does it over 2 days. That process I've been doing now for almost 36 years. So nothing new there. This is it for me. I love it.
Well, let's go back a step. You said so many great things in there. I want to pick some of them up. So the first thing is, when you spoke about Bruce Lipton, just for our people who may not know, he's an American biologist, best known for discovering that genes and DNA can be manipulated by a person's beliefs. He's also the author of several books, including Epigenetics, probably the most read book or the most widely known book. The Power of the Subconscious Mind is the subtitle there. He's done research on muscular dystrophy, studies of cloned human stem cells, etc. He's legit. We should also say that the World Congress of Integrative Medicine and Health that you're just returning from, or I guess it was in May, in Berlin. Is that the one where you attended?
No, last week I was in Hawaii.
Oh, in Hawaii.
I
don't find it. Okay, great. Well, let's talk about this 5-year study. How was this conducted?
It took them 5 months.
5 months. The medical peer review study, is that what it was?
If they will go to my website, that review is going to be right there as a drop-down link for them.
Okay, great. And that's something that's been peer reviewed. It's legit through the medical. Who reviewed it?
I have no idea who all the medical peer reviewers are. When the study went in, they said, oh, this is fantastic. We'll have it in print in 2 weeks. And I wasn't surprised it took them a lot longer than 2 weeks because, let's face it, somebody submits something like this, you're going to look at it, and you're going to do everything you can to prove it doesn't work.
Right.
They couldn't prove it doesn't work. That's why it went to print. That's why it's there. Anybody can see it right there on the website as a drop-down link.
Yeah, and forgive me for not being clear, but when I say who reviewed it, are we talking about PhDs, MDs? Who's on what level is it reviewed?
I've never received a list of who's in on all the work that they're doing and reviewing it.
Okay, all right.
I have a list of who it is.
Laura, what questions do you have for Gary Sinclair?
Well, on that note, like, is it just that why did it take 5 months to review it? Sorry, I'm not clear on the part.
From my perspective, I believe it's because they tried really hard to make the work fail to work. And in fact, in the end, just like it has for those that I've trained, the work has not failed. And I believe the reason it hasn't failed is simply because it's being done with the energy field of the heart. It's the original energy source of who you are that's potentiating the healing modality work.
It's just incredible.
Yeah.
What's the basis of this? First of all, let's review. Everybody can learn this, right?
Yes, anybody can learn it.
And you recommend that we do. This is not something that you want to be the only guy on the planet who can do. You want to train us. You want everybody to be working on this. And coaches in particular, I don't know about you, Laura. Have you run across people who are stopped by memories, dealing with PTSD or some other painful memory that they can't get past?
Yes, I am actually. I'm actually very interested in this.
Yeah. It's extraordinary. So how do we go about learning it? Where do we go? What do we do?
Okay, you're asking me, okay. There is certification training that I do. One of the things that I do that helps me get the quality of person that I want to be doing the work, when I talk about the fact that the restoration course does for your life what Soul Link does for a memory. I mean, you finish that course at the end of 2 days realizing there's no major memory that bothers you in any way. So I require that somebody take that 2-day training first. Then there's a day off. Then they go through the full certification training to be trained in Soul Link and awareness and consciousness. The way the week works, we're now at the weekend, they can take the weekend off, and if they really desire to be able to do the full restoration training with someone, then there's a 3-day, 188-page manual that deals with learning how to do that piece of work. And out of that, they can not only do the full 2-day, but I teach them how to do what we call a 2-hour life-changing session. And that 2-hour life-changing session is exactly that, because they're taking pieces within the framework of the total work, including Soul Link and awareness and consciousness, and teaching that to the client on Skype, in person, or however it's arranged to be done.
It's just phenomenal that you can be so effective in such a brief period of time. Let's talk about that 2-hour life-changing session. Are there people, I don't know if you're offering that, are there people that we can get hooked up with to go have that experience for ourselves so that we can actually get the power of this work?
Yes, absolutely. They just need to go through the website and make that request, and we try to find the one who's closest to them as far as making a connection. And as I say, there's only about 150 people in the world. What you need to realize is I only came up with the Soul Link technique after doing that 2-day program restoration, which was a 3-day program for almost 34 years. Wow. At that point in time, I came up with the development of Soul Link, and it took me a while to work out the ramifications. The manual itself only got written last June and July. It went to copyright. To my shock, the government copyrighted it as a manual and sent it back to me in a month.
Nice.
Now, there is a minor book out there called Healing Memories in Seconds that is also available. It only scratches the surface in what all this is all about, and I do mean only scratches the surface. We're looking at doing an expanded version of that now. The key is the volume of information that's available through the training to look at all the different ways to be doing everything that can be done. From the website alone, when they go there, they end up, if they sign up, they'll receive back information on how to begin to feel your energy, which many of those that are on this show have that ability already. How do you take in, and because you can feel your energy, how can you in seconds literally neutralize a minor memory? And when I say minor, if we scaled memories on a 1 to 10, those memories in the 3 to 4 range, you literally can neutralize them easily. And when you understand how that's done, now you teach that to a child. I mean, I have children that have been bullied in school. The children are no longer bullied because, again, life's an inside job. So when we go ahead and teach that child how to neutralize the minor memory, that's their major memories that they're neutralizing. There's another process in there that basically comes out of the field of NLP where, to me, they miss what they were capable of doing because they're so caught in the physical identity of the body. But there's one in there the teenagers absolutely love. So if we scaled again, the memories on a 1 to 10, that will do any memory up to an 8 easily. It's the 9 and 10s that got to be the most difficult thing to work with, and that's why when I taught my 3-day class that's now the 2-day restoration, it took me a whole day to get to where we were neutralizing the worst memories of life, or those major memories. And now with Soul Link, there isn't any question. I mean, I can walk up to somebody in the grocery store. Let me give you a story. Let me give you this one. You'll love this. I was having a rough day a few days back, and I said, guys, I need some testimonies. I got about 15 in the mail. One of them was a gal who's certified. She met a gal who said, I came home from Iraq about 4 months ago, and when I came home with 12. There were 12 of us that came home. That was all that remained of my troop. She said, what's happened, though, is 11 of them have already committed suicide. So
oh, my God.
I guess I'm not long because I'm going to go be with my friends. She did Soul Link on her, specifically with a memory. And the day before she wrote that testimony to me, the gal had driven about a 6-hour drive to come find her so that she could say to her, I just want you to know I've got to figure out how to get trained in this work. You've got to help me. I want to be able to do what you did to me to other people that are coming home so they won't commit suicide. This is like gut-wrenching stuff for me, and I'm getting it all the time. Because we stay out of content, I don't know what that person's doing. When they absolutely have to tell the story, I mean, you neutralize the memory first, and then I got to tell you, you've got to know. I think of the woman who's 76 years of age. She's 3 years of age. She heard the doctors tell her parents she's going to die, so she's got the imprint of knowing, that she's going to die. The parents were going away for a long, long weekend, an extended one. So they took her over to her grandmother's house, and she's a good-sized gal herself, and she takes her arms and spreads them way up to the side and says, now, my grandma was a big woman. And what she describes is the fact that as they left her at Grandma's and the family drove away, Grandma came over to give her a hug and fell on top of her. But what actually happened was Grandma died. So she said my head was tipped backwards, my neck was tipped out, and Grandma laid on top of me. And they found me Monday afternoon at 4:30. Now think about it. I mean, that's like not even understandably believable that this child got locked in the weight of a woman on top of her. I'm not sure how she even survived. But she knows that she has that trauma of her memory. Now, what we did is we did the process.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. Gary Sinclair, when we come back, we'll give you a moment to finish that story. I was not observing the time, but I am now. That is the great and powerful Gary Sinclair. The website that we've referred to several times is memoryenergytherapy.com. Go check it out. There are events coming right up for both Soul Link and Restoration. We'll be back with more right after this.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
Are you seeking to change your career to something that is both fulfilling and challenging? Do you want to help people reach their full potential and strive to achieve their dreams? Would you like to inspire those around you and help create a better world? If you're serious about a career change or just want to explore the craft of personal coaching, contact Accomplishment Coaching. With locations across the country in Washington, D.C., Seattle, Chicago, New York City, and San Diego, Accomplishment Coaching is the leading institution in personal coaching. Our staff carefully monitors the entire program, live during the training process, and have met the strict standards of ICF International to achieve accreditation. Through a focus on quality instruction rather than endless modules of training, Accomplishment Coaching will guide you from your very first step all the way to becoming one of the finest coaches in the world. Visit AccomplishmentCoaching.com to learn more. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach.
Christopher McAuliffe is your source for the latest in the world of personal coaching. Whether it be speaking with such luminaries as Deepak Chopra or getting the newest techniques and innovation, the coaching show is always on the cutting edge of what's happening now.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Gotham Books presents Marriage Rules by Harriet Lerner. The book Martha Beck calls required reading for anyone hoping to interact successfully with any other human, not just for those in romantic relationships. Get your copy wherever books and ebooks are sold, and visit harrietlerner.com to learn how to change your marriage today.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome back to The Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McCullough.
And we're continuing, just wrapping up with the extraordinary Gary Sinclair, who has turned his own life around and now is supporting thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands, and really changing the face of therapy with his approaches, the Soul Link approach and the restoration approach. Now, I apologize for my fumbling around on the time, Gary, but I want to give you a couple of minutes to just wrap up. I know that the website is memoryenergytherapy.com, and you've got some events coming up, not only a restoration workshop, but a Soul Link certification training, and then a restoration certification class, all in San Diego coming up. Is that true?
That's correct, yes. Right. Yep.
Can we register? How can we find out about it? And where should we start?
Well, again, just come through on the website. I'll be glad to actually talk to people personally, as long as they need to make connection with me. Otherwise, they can actually register on that website. We're still beginning to look at dates for next year. I've got so much demand for international. People have come here, they've trained, they're saying, I'm putting a group together there. I know there's one coming up in January in Canada that's already got 4 registered in. So there are other dates that are coming into next year. But right now in the U.S., the only one I have coming up is this one that's coming now.
And we want to get in that. So again, it's coming right up in the next few weeks. Go to memoryenergytherapy.com. If you're looking for it, you can /events, and it'll give you the calendar, and just follow the calendar for more information and to register for those things. Gary, I want to give you about a minute to give us a parting thought or a parting shot today. What would you have 30 to 50,000 coaches know?
Let me at least tell you, with that woman, she came back and found me the next day, and she said, I need you to know I woke up during the night and realized for the first time in my life I can have a friend. Went back to sleep, an hour later I woke up, and then she starts crying. She says, I realized also for the first time in my life I could have a relationship. Oh. That's the change of having gone through 40 years of therapy for something that she couldn't get help for, and where it's at today. So what I'd say is the work hasn't failed. You know, if you need to do a proof to yourself, do a life-changing session. I'm available to do those. I have other people that are available to do those. The key is 80% of therapy maximum is a success. 20% of all therapy fails. I've worked so much with the people for whom therapy has failed, and they've had the success that they're looking for, and they've had it in seconds. That's the reason why I live and breathe and have my being. I should be dead at least 21 times.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, and thank you for being with us. Laura Watler joining us from the Cayman Islands. Anything that you want to say before we bid a fond farewell to Gary?
No, thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to learning more about your work, and also maybe someone in Cayman might benefit from this as well.
Indeed.
So. You bet. We need them all over the globe.
All right.
And your reaction to the work is absolutely normal. I am so used to it because, let's face it, nothing has this success rate, and that's known.
That's right. You can't find 10 people that want the same kind of food, let alone 10 people that 10,000 people that can vouch for the power and effectiveness of both the Soul Link and the restoration approaches. Thanks so much for being with us. Again, the website is memoryenergytherapy.com, and we thank you and bid you a fond farewell. Laura, I think we're going to do some magic with the technology here, and then we're going to welcome not only you back, but also our second guest, Ron Carucci, for today's show. But I want to let people know that the way to get a hold of more information about these extraordinary opportunities of training on restoration and the Soul Link awareness and consciousness certification training is by going to memoryenergytherapy.com. memoryenergytherapy.com. Now, the website's chock full of stuff, so it may be a challenge for you to find what you're looking for. So go to /events, and that'll give you what you need to. You can click right on the links for either the restoration workshop. That's a 2-day workshop in San Diego on Monday the 30th of October and Tuesday the 31st. So come and spend Halloween in beautiful San Diego, California. Or then starting on the 2nd of November, you can do the Soul Link Awareness and Consciousness Certification Training, and that's a 2-day event starting November 2nd and November 3rd, both days 9 to 5. You can save $500 on a combo ticket. You can there are all kinds of plans and options for you to attend that. And then if you want to, that restoration certification class that Gary was talking about is on November 6th. It starts on November 6th. Again, 9 to 5, 3 days in a row, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, here in beautiful San Diego, California. An excellent place to be in November of 2017. All right. And if you just want to find out more about Gary, of course, go check and his work. Go check that out. There are tons of testimonials. There's a video from Gary himself. You get a sense of how much energy that guy has at 70, I believe, 3 years of age. Did he say? Extraordinary. All right. We've given you a little shout out to our longtime sponsor of this program, Accomplishment Coaching. Again, if you are interested in the world's finest coach training program, go check them out, accomplishmentcoaching.com. Now we're delighted to welcome to our microphones for the first time Ron Carucci. He's co-founder and managing partner at Navalent. I may be saying that wrong. Maybe it's Navalent. He works with CEOs and executives and has done for 30 years with an extraordinary track record. He's also the best-selling author of 8 books, including the recent Amazon #1, Rising to Power. A regular contributor to HBR, Forbes, Fortune, Business Insider, MSNBC, Business Week, and others. A true thought leader in organizational and leadership coaching. We're delighted to welcome to our microphone Ron Carucci. Ron, hello, sir.
Hi there. How are you? So great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being had, as we like to say. Hey, look around outside. Where do you find yourself today?
I find myself in Seattle, Washington, on a typically gray and cold and rainy day.
Every time I've been to Seattle, Washington, it's beautiful. I think you people lie. I think people lie about Seattle and how beautiful it is there to keep the tourists out and the riffraff out, like me. You did a TEDx talk, which became HBR's #1 leadership article of 2016. Congratulations.
Well, thanks very much. And that TED Talk is actually coming up on November 4th at the JFK Library. Very excited about that.
Yeah, excellent. So you're going to do it for the TED. Not the TEDx, but the TED?
This is the MIT TEDx. Yeah,
Nice.
The Beacon Street one.
That's pretty fancy. All right, tell us about that, and what is it that was so powerful in your message that people need to hear?
So we've known for about 20 years that the vast majority of leaders, when put into larger assignments in organizations, they all fail within the first 18 months. Mm-hmm. And of course, recruiters love that because it's an annuity for them. But for everybody else, it's a terrible amount of carnage. That became really personal for me a bunch of years ago when I got a phone call from a gentleman who had distinguished himself in a very large transformation project my firm and I were working on. And he had great ideas, he was influential, he was passionate, he was smart. And so at the end of the transformational work, when he was offered the opportunity to take on something bigger for the organization, nobody was shocked. Well, 9 months later when he called, I see him in my caller ID, and I'm assuming that he's calling to report on progress and check in and tell me all the exciting things they've done. And he's calling to tell me he'd been fired. And I was devastated. And 2 hours later, the CEO called me also to tell me that had to let this guy go, and more than subtly implying that some of the failure had been ours for not doing a better job preparing him for that role. Right. I was devastated. So I said, can we come in? Can I come and understand what happened here? How could we have misjudged his potential so grossly? He was so terrific in 1 minute, and suddenly he's a disaster. It makes no sense. Well, that investigation led to a 10-year longitudinal study of executive and leadership transitions of more than 2,700 leaders, and we isolated about 100 of them in mid-ascent to understand what are all the landmines that seem to be tripping up otherwise great leaders. And we were stunned to find that it's a wonder any of them ever succeed in organizations, given how many landmines and roadblocks put in their way. But the great news was we were able to isolate 4 compelling patterns that the 50% that were succeeding very consistently displayed that set them apart and help them to not only rise up but thrive.
We need to know. Give us one. Give us one. You could give us one.
So I can give you 4, and they're pretty quick. The first one was breadth. So these were the leaders that could see the entirety of the organization from its widest perspective. They didn't see the world through their own functional lens or their own silo, but they were able to see how the pieces fit together. They understood that the whole of the organization was better than some of the parts, and they actually understood how to work the seams. So they understood that at the intersections of supply chain and marketing is where great brands happen. They understood at the intersection of innovation, marketing, R&D is where great innovation happens. So they understood that their job now was to blend the organization, not fragment it. Context was they could read the tea leaves. They didn't impose their own way of changing. They didn't impose their own point of view. They could learn the environment. They knew how their companies made money. They knew how they competed. So many executives rise up unprepared and uninformed about how their companies actually compete and make money. These guys could learn and read the tea leaves. The third was choice. So these leaders could make hard calls. They knew how to blend the right degree of intuition, data, others' voices into hard choices, and they were not afraid to say no. Too many executives, for fear of disappointing people, dole out way too many yeses and dilute the resources and focus of the organization. And lastly, connection. These leaders, every company has them, right? These are the ones everybody wants to work for. They have phenomenal trust-based relationships with bosses, peers, and direct reports all around them, and more than anything else they do in prioritizing those relationships, they make the success of other people their top priority, and everybody knows it. So the hard part about the research was you have to do all 4 well. We did 99 regression analyses on the data to try and find another way to say that, and the team finally said, "Ron, enough. It's not going to change." Because if you did 3 of them brilliantly and 1 of them mediocre, that got you on the B team. That got you failure. So but the positive part of that is you can learn them. They're all acquirable capabilities. You probably shouldn't wait till your first vice president assignment to start learning them, but that you can gain these skills and muscles throughout your career, and then when you arrive in your first large assignment, you can be ready.
It's just an extraordinary handbook of like, here's the places here are the potholes to avoid, here are the things that are gonna swallow you up. My understanding is that your research tells us that 50%, half of executives promoted fail in their new leadership positions. Is that right?
Yeah, that's my point. Is we've known that for 20 years, right? That's not new information. We've known it for 20 years, and it's become our new normal. And when I got that phone call, and it became somebody that I'd worked with, who, by all accounts, had the promise of being a rising star.
Right, as many people do. Right.
It just made no sense. It made absolutely no sense to me that this could happen.
I want to get Laura in. Oh, go ahead. Make your point. Sorry.
Well, my point is, it's not. This is not a mysterious force. This is not some sudden disease or virus they catch on the web. Organizations do this to them. I went back to that CEO and I said, you know what? I will take full responsibility for not pointing out all of the landmines that were in his way that he was going to have to contend with. But you need to take responsibility for putting them there. Because we do it to them unwittingly, and even in the very processes we use to select these executives for broader assignments because of all their potential, we set them up to fail.
It's astounding, and it's so important. I want to get Laura in here. Laura Watler is a PCC coach. She works with people primarily in the areas of relationship, often in their relationship to themselves, which I think we can agree is also an issue in rising stars in organizations. Laura, what question do you have for Ron? What do you want to talk about?
Hi, Ron. I'm just curious around, in your opinion, what creates the leader to have more of an impact or consistent impact throughout once they see these skills?
I think first of all, I think leaders have to actually desire to want to have impact, which isn't a given, right? So one of the interesting things we isolated in our research was the issue of power. How do these leaders, as they rise up, contend with the power that accompanies their role? And we expected to find the full array of immoral, unethical, self-interest serving, and that was all there. That was not the biggest abuse of power. The biggest abuse of power we saw was the abandonment of it. People too afraid to use the power that comes with their role, and they pushed it away. And so, leaders who actually want to use the power that comes with their role to serve a greater good, to right organizational injustices, to make others successful, to narrow the priorities of an organization and focus it. It starts with having the will to have influence and impact, which apparently not all executives come naturally wired with.
Yeah, well, it's I love that because it's dangerous in an organization to wield your power. And, how many of us know the executives who get promoted and then just sort of hang back to spend their first 90 days waiting to look around and see what the political dynamics are, right?
Absolutely. And then they start getting all the advice from their who used to be their bosses and then are now their peers.
Right.
Oh, we don't say those things up here. Or just so you know, when you're in meetings, you probably should just wait your turn. Or they get all that hazing. Right. Organizational hazing that happens, and then suddenly they lose their voice and they lose their will.
Yeah, and there's some. This may be more about me than leaders, but when I was in the exciting and dynamic world of healthcare management, when I used to run hospitals and healthcare systems, as an executive, we would do frivolous nonsense like I would be competing with someone, and so we'd each try and win the meeting. You know what I mean? Like try to make the point, or submarine somebody else, or throw somebody under a bus. Right? There's also a lot of politicization. One of the things that happened in my career is that I actually got fired from a job because somebody that had been my friend, that I'd done what I called lunchtime diplomacy with all the time, where I would go and make friends by taking people to lunch and try to find out what's happening in the organization. He totally manufactured my demise, right? So that his friend could have the job that I was in. I'm wondering, when you're encountering, it's one thing to look at, breadth and relationships, and I definitely need to work on that. But when we get to the real world, what are you finding about these sort of snaky, backbiting stuff? And how are you preparing your leaders to deal with that?
Well, so the same muscles apply, right? So you are going to have people who are subhuman at the top of the house, and you wonder how could they have managed to get there. The good news is, I do think karma is a bitch, and I do think what goes around comes around. And I do think those people eventually end up being their own, their own demise. Mm-hmm. They end up eating. Those who eat their young end up getting eaten by others.
Exactly. Right.
And so, but the thing I tell my leaders never to do is never take the bait. Never. My mother always told me, never mud wrestle with a pig because somebody might be watching and not be able to tell the difference. And so, don't take the bait. Don't get in there. But take a full frontal. So if someone in a meeting suddenly starts to try to embellish information, or starts to throw you under the bus, or does a whole bait and switch on you to set you up to fail, don't get in there with them. Simply say something like, "That's so interesting you say that, because just an hour ago in your office you said this. So did you change your mind on the way to the meeting?"
Nice. I'm going to travel to all my meetings with you from now on.
If they're playing a game, don't call it. Just, flag on the play, call it.
Man, I don't know about you, Laura, but what I'm finding is that there's so much that Ron says. He speaks quickly and powerfully, but there's so much, I'm still back with the, supply chain and marketing, where they meet, that's the great brand. That was awesome, and that's why we all have to get his books and not just listen to the podcast, because it goes by pretty quick, folks. There are several books: Leadership Divided, Bridging the Leadership Divide, and then your latest book, probably the most popular, I'm guessing, is Rising to Power. Tell us about the books, and especially Rising to Power. What are people reporting to you? What are they getting from that book?
Well, so thanks for asking. So what was very exciting for us when we discovered the 4 patterns and wanted to write about them, I literally had pictures of these leaders and that one gentleman that called me all over my office, and I kept their face close to the writing process all the time, because we had one laser focus, which was to stop the carnage. To make sure these leaders listen, no one's ever going to accuse corporate America of being the paragon of great leadership today, right? Big companies have become the employer of last resort. It's not a surprise that they're poorly led for the most part. And yet, if you troll the hallways, you will find great men and women. Our passion was, let's stop the carnage. So the great reviews, #1 Amazon, the recognition from HBR, that's all wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
When I get an email from an executive that says, you saved my ass, I was going to make this decision, but I made this one instead. I was thinking this way, but now I'm doing this way. When they find that they have different choices available to them, and they garner their courage instead of lose their courage, that's what really gratifies me, is to know that an otherwise promising leader who might have been one of those bad statistics and derailed their career winds up having an opportunity to thrive.
That's so beautiful. Laura, what do you want to know? What's the world of the Cayman Islands got for Ron today?
Well, I just really want to know why you, what brought you to this work from a management consultant and into writing books and helping people become better leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So I have done this work for 30 years, my gosh. And I think, early on in my career, I spent a lot of time in the arts and in a different field. I was in Germany working at Dachau at the concentration camp doing a workshop. Now, back then it wasn't called diversity, it wasn't called inclusion like we have its words today, but certainly it was about how do you deal with differences. And we had folks from West Germany, we had folks from American military and the State Department, we had a variety of folks in the room. This is before the Iron Curtain fell, so they're still in East Germany. Mm-hmm. It was a very, of all places to be doing that kind of conversation, right? And a young soldier stood up in the middle of our conversation, and through a lot of a painful emotion, he said, "I'm just so tired of being trained to hate." And now I'm in my early 20s right now, and I was just stunned that anything we could have done in the front of the room could have provoked him to think that. So I wanted to understand what he meant, and we went out in Munich afterwards for beers to understand more. And I think, I don't know that I could have articulated it at the time, but that was a real pivot point for me to realize, telling great stories is an interesting thing to do for a living, but engaging other people's stories and helping them write those stories in a different way, that was far more life-giving for me. And I think that's what began my career turn toward this work. And I think for me, leadership is a noble cause. It doesn't always look that way on people who don't do it well, but it is a noble It's a noble calling. It's also, people assume that with leadership comes perks and privileges and all this influence and all this money. And, here's the one thing they don't tell you in B school. If you're going to lead, you're going to suffer.
Whoops. Did we lose Ron?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, good. Sorry, we had a little glitch there. Will you make the last point again? If you lead, you're going to suffer?
If you're going to lead, you're going to suffer. It comes with a private hell, an unforgiving public fishbowl that people pick apart everything you do. In today's leadership climate, you start distrusted. And because of all the leadership failures, the bar's only gone up higher. So now you start with being distrusted with an entirely unrealistic set of expectations about what you can do.
Well, this is so powerful. And Ron, I'm so sorry that our time is coming to an end. It's just flying by. Let me confirm that that's true. So what I want to do is I want to not only thank you for being here, but give you the last 40 seconds of our time together. First of all, tell me the word. Is it Navalent? Navalent? No. How do we do that?
You had it right the first time. It's Navalent.
Okay, NAVALENT.com is the website where you can find out all about Ron. Of course, go immediately to Amazon and get his books, including Rising to Power. Ron, last 40 seconds are yours. What would you have 30 to 50,000 coaches know today?
If you're going to sit alongside leaders and help them, make sure you're prepared. Do your own homework, know your own triggers, have a little bit of clinical training to understand how to influence behavior. Don't have a one-size-fits-all set of shtick that you slap on them. Be present for them, and remember, it's about them, not you.
So great. Ron Carucci, co-founder and managing partner at Navalent. Get that right, people. You can find him at NAVALENT.com as well as Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. Laura Watler, thank you so much for being with us today. Kind of a rocky day, but I thank you so much for being with us. People can find out more by going to Laura Watler. That's LAURAWATLER.com, LAURAWATLER.com. And my dear listeners, that's another edition of The Coaching Show. We learned a lot, we found out a lot, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.
Join culinary masters and legendary winemakers for one of the largest Epicurean celebrations, the 14th annual San Diego Bay Wine and Food Festival. From November 12th through the 19th, this week-long extravaganza features celebrity and local chefs, 200 amazing wineries, 70 of San Diego's best restaurants, and it's a week of citywide events. Go to vinvillage.com to save big on select tickets. For event and hotel packages, visit san diego wine classic.com. That's San Diego Wine Classic.